But Wizard, sometimes motivation is not the problem. Sometimes we feel anxious about getting started with the hobby, so we avoid doing it. How do you explain that?
An astute observation, Sterling. You describe the fear of starting. But in truth, this feeling is not about getting started. No, behind the mask lies something darker. Greetings, brave travelers. It is I, the Wizard Inquisitor. I come to you via astral projection cast directly into your consciousness. Today, we speak not of demons or Xenos or heresies most foul, but of a subtler enemy, one that lurks not on the battlefield, but within the mind. The foe I name is low motivation, the arch-enemy of the Warhammer 40k hobbyist.
A dark foe indeed. Low hobby motivation is the progenitor of unpainted mountains of grey plastic.
Ooh-wee, you got that right. I got a whole box of Tyranids just waiting to be slathered with contrast paint. If only I could bring myself to start cutting sprues.
Yes, most 40k enthusiasts have felt the heaviness of low motivation at some point. The hesitation, the unopened paint pots, the models left grey, the pile of shame that watches from the shelf like a silent Ordo Malleus interrogator.
But you want to paint. You want to play. You mean to start that new Gaunt's Ghost book. But somehow, you just don't.
Right. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, or when you feel in the mood, or once you get a sign from the Holy Emperor himself.
Indeed, my friends. But this is not the fault of the struggling hobbyist. For you see, across the worlds of the Imperium, there is a great misunderstanding about how motivation works within the mind. Many believe that motivation is a prerequisite for action, that one must first conjure it before they can begin their journey, that you must feel ready before you can begin. But this, my friends, is heresy. For in truth, that model is reversed. Let me reveal to you the true nature of the mind. Action comes before motivation.
Action before motivation? Are you sure?
Yes, you heard me right. The common model, motivation then action, is an illusion, a trick of perception. In reality, it is taking action that awakens the fires of motivation within the mind. Our brains, those magnificent lumps of enchanted flesh, do not sit idle waiting for motivation to descend. In truth, when you begin to take action, even the smallest action, you activate neural circuits in regions of the brain associated with reward, focus, and momentum.
Oh yes, I've read about that before. Modern neuroscience confirms it. Taking action activates the brain's reward systems. You move first, and the motivation follows.
Exactly. You can think of it like this. When you sit idle, dreading a task, your mind is like a slumbering dreadnought, heavy, inert, unresponsive. But when you act, when you lift the brush, open the codex, prime just one miniature, you pull the lever that awakens the machine's spirit. It stirs. The circuits fire. The will returns.
And so the task becomes easier. The emotional weight lightens, and the once impossible quest now begins to unfold, step by step.
Precisely. And the more you engage, the more these pathways reinforce themselves. It is not warp magic. It is biology.
Well, geez, I guess our brain is less like a Primarch and more like a servitor. You can't wait for it to lead. You gotta give it a push.
But Wizard, sometimes motivation is not the problem. Sometimes we feel anxious about getting started with the hobby, so we avoid doing it. How do you explain that?
An astute observation, Sterling. You describe the fear of starting. But in truth, this feeling is not about getting started. No, behind the mask lies something darker. The fear of failure. For indeed, it is not that you fear painting a model, you fear painting it badly. You don't dread game night, you dread being judged. You're not afraid to begin, you're afraid to be found lacking.
Oh, geez, maybe that's why my termagants aren't painted. I'm afraid I won't be satisfied with the color scheme.
Ah, but here is the good news, my friends. We can wield our knowledge like a relic blade. For both of these problems, low motivation and the fear of failure, have the same solution: taking action. And with a sacred spell, we can manifest this outcome. It is called the first step technique. The premise is simple. You do not commit to finishing the entire army. You do not even commit to finishing the model. You commit only to the first step. You ask thyself, what is the absolute, smallest, most trivial first step required to begin this task? Not to finish it, only to begin it. One brushstroke, one rule read, one page turned. Simple, mundane, mechanical. That is the key.
Ah, so you're not committing to organizing a tournament. You're committing to sending a message to your gaming group.
Yeah, you're not vowing to paint 2,000 points of Tyranids. You're just opening the paint pot and putting color on a single claw.
Exactly. And herein lies the true magic. Once you have taken that first step, and only then, your brain begins to reward you with the feeling we call motivation. A faint flicker at first, but enough to continue, enough to overcome the anxiety you felt. The illusion of resistance fades, so you take another step. You paint both pauldrons instead of only one. Then another step. You move on to the bolter and dry brush the edges. Before you know it, the task becomes lighter, enjoyable even. You are no longer forcing yourself to start. You are now riding the current of motivation. What once seemed overwhelming has become achievable.
Ah, so each small act is like knocking over a single domino, and that domino nudges the next and the next, until a cascade of progress is in motion.
Wow, I bet this technique can help with my reading progress too. All I gotta do is commit to one page of the Eisenhorn Omnibus, and maybe I'll end up finishing a whole chapter.
Indeed, my friends. So hear me now, disciple of the hobby. Do not wait until you feel ready. That day may never come, for the mind is not a master issuing commands from on high. It is a follower, a creature of habit and movement. So take action first, and then you will feel like continuing. Motivation is not the fuel before the fire. It is the smoke that rises after the spark. You do not need to be fearless, or perfect, or inspired. You need only be willing to take the first step, again and again, until the habit forms, until the will flows, until the gray plastic becomes a painted legion, and the unread codex becomes a universe in your mind.
Yeah, because if all you do today is clean your brush and slap some paint on one orc, that's one less orc the galaxy has to worry about.
Ah, small steps but great victories.
So rise, hobbyist. Take your first step. Not tomorrow, not when you're ready, but now. If this message of arcane wisdom has stirred your spirit, I beseech thee, strike the like button as though it were a goblin's skull, and consider subscribing to this channel so that our paths may cross again.